Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Today's warehouse needs to keep inventory moving smoothly and quickly. Meet these challenges with on-demand warehouse labeling from Brother Mobile Solutions. Our mobile and industrial printers will help optimize your operations to achieve the speed, reliability, and durability your warehouse needs. With easy integration for existing warehouse technology, convenient portability, and upfront affordability, Brother Mobile Solutions is at your side when it comes to warehouse labeling. Try one for free today by visiting brothermobilesolutions.com/new warehouse or click the link in the show notes. That's brothermobilesolutions.com/new warehouse to try one for free today.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. Today's episode, I am going to be joined by Philip Aksar. He is the founder at Arka, and Arka is focused on delivering custom packaging for e-commerce brands and also automating your package replenishment at your warehouse and fulfillment centers, which is a pretty interesting idea and concept, and definitely interested in learning more about this from Philip, who I've been kind of getting to know over the past couple months. So I'm happy we could connect on the podcast here. So Philip, welcome to the show.
Me too.
How you doing?
Hey man, thanks for having me, Kevin. Yeah, it's been fun getting to actually meet you in person at Manifest. Like, that was a sick conference. I actually had a great time.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been 0 for 2 in the last 2 conferences I've been to. And then I go to Manifest, and it was really the aspect around seeming like they would advocate people meeting with each other, engaging with each other. I'm all for that. Versus like trying to sift your way through what might be a click, sift your way through might be long-lasting relationships that other people have. And you know, folks can sometimes be siloed, and with here at this place, it felt like everyone was open to chat, open to connect, open to collaborate on some level. And next thing you know, I'm on your podcast. So there's you know, case in point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with you. I think, you know, the one thing, I was talking to like another fellow podcaster as well that was there, and we kept saying like, we kept trying to like connect, and it was like every time we try to connect, like we run into somebody else like that we know or from the industry or somebody we've like been talking to on LinkedIn and finally got the chance to meet. It was like, you know, everybody was there basically. And I think it was really an interesting atmosphere that they created to be able to make those like connections happen, and like you said, have like meaningful conversations and potentially long-term relationships with people. I think that was a really great thing. So great show, definitely. So shout out to the Manifest team there. So tell us a little bit about you, Philip. I mean, what's your background, and I'm curious, like, how did you come to this idea for Arka and end up eventually founding the company?
Shit. Okay. You ready? This is about to be a ramble, man. Like, I'm going to go from like the very beginning.
Yeah.
You know, first generation born, Persian American.
Sure.
My folks came over here from Iran in the 1970s. Okay. And for any of y'all that are not living under a rock, there's some crazy shit going on in Iran right now. And all of that actually ties back into what the regime was like when my folks left. So very fortunate to be here, like 1,000%. Went to school for industrial engineering at Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, great program there. It's actually where I met one of my closest friends, AJ Forsyth, who started a company called iCraft. They were like Andreessen Horowitz backed, YC backed. It actually, the experience kind of encouraged me to say, well, shit, I can go through Y Combinator if you can. And then I did. I had started a company, exited that position, and then started Arka. But like at Cal Poly, it really was, you know, when we were talking about Arka, you know, the whole like Kanban aspect that we provide for 3PLs. We automate packaging for 3PLs. We'll connect to the WMS using their API, and we'll just auto replenish packaging when they're low. A lot of that came from my IE focus at Cal Poly, and the first work that I did there was actually not the startup world. I'd gone up to the Pacific Northwest and worked at Boeing Aerospace for a while, and Kanban was thrown around a lot there. Great company to work for. Recognized that I don't want to work at a big company, however. Like, it was always startups for me, I felt, and very excited about what we're building right now. This is actually, with how the environment is right now, this is the most positive I've ever felt about the company, the team, the trajectory, the roadmap. So I feel incredibly fortunate with that respect, because I think you'll be getting some different stories from different people, depending on who you talk to right now. It's wild right now. It's actually pretty crazy. Like, we're lucky that we just closed a $2 million seed round.
Yeah.
I feel like I just ran into a house and closed the door before like something went off, and we're like insulated and protected. It's nice.
Yeah.
Best wishes to everyone out there trying to get over whatever hurdle they're trying to get over right now, because I get it. It's not easy. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think, obviously people have some fears and stuff, and there's some talk about, investors kind of taking the money away a little bit, but congratulations to you guys for securing that. And, it's interesting.
For sure.
You started out in industrial engineering, and you said, your experience at Boeing, you heard, the Kanban thrown around a little bit, but I'm curious what the actual point was, or what happened. Typically, founders of a company, they have some kind of pain point that they find a problem they want to solve. So I mean, when did your focus kind of actually shift to packaging in this sense, and what happened there?
Totally. Yeah, I by no means went through college nerding out about cardboard boxes. Like, I nerd out about efficiency.
Yeah. Like,
I see, dude, I'm the kind of guy that'll, like, I see a cap from like a water bottle face down on a table, I'll flip it over just because it gets to me. Like, that's the type of shit that just irks me. And recognizing a space that exceeds that of $500 billion just seems like a massive opportunity, and a fairly, I don't want to say safe opportunity, because it's still going to be very difficult to innovate with all the companies you have, but it seems like less risk. Like, I'm not going after, people's lives aren't at stake.
Right.
And, trying to tinker with that is one thing. Whereas what we're doing is really just solving a solution that still affects everybody, because every physical product you buy requires packaging. Everything that you've purchased has likely gone through a warehouse.
Yeah.
And one must ask, well, how does one like ingest and then digest that before it gets to you? Is that like an efficient process? And the answer flat out is no. Is it an easy one? Also no. So it's not like there's like straight gross negligence across the board. It's just that I think one can admit that the supply chain industry is one that is mired with many different pockets that are overdue for renovation, and packaging is one of them, in this case, within the warehouse. It's still folks walking the warehouse floor, counting how many boxes they have, jotting it down on a clipboard, picking up the phone, ordering more, and then needing to update their warehouse management system manually. So to be able to, I guess, automate that and remedy the manual process just seems like an opportunity that we couldn't pass. And it kind of came from just chugging along with Arka.com, which is just a platform for businesses to design and order sustainable packaging online. That's been the plan. That's been our, if anything, quote unquote, lifestyle business up until this point. And it wasn't until an opportunity like Shopify came our way.
Yeah.
And this is before they bought Deliver. So, this time has passed, so we can talk about it. But, there was a time at Shopify where they were thinking about creating their own fulfillment nodes, fulfillment locations. Packaging was a bit of, am I allowed to swear on the show, or is this like a PG show?
No, that's fine.
Okay, it was a bit of a clusterfuck. Okay, like it's a bit of a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
Especially like you look at Amazon and went from this physical space and then veered towards digital. That's a huge oversimplification, of course. But like, look, they had selling books online, selling shit online, and they're like AWS and they're crushing it. And then you have someone like Shopify who builds a platform for online store owners, and then they're moving towards fulfillment. Like, going from the digital world to the physical space is much more difficult than going from the physical space and jumping into digital, I would argue. So I had a friend and now mentor, advisor. Well, friend and mentor, always was, I would say. But now he's like officially on the cap table, and he's an advisor at Arka, James Marks. He was working with Shopify. He's one of the warehouse management systems that they were using at the time. And he had pointed out this issue to me and said, this is something you could solve. And every keystroke of the API that has been built thus far has been under his adult supervision, which I'm incredibly grateful for,
Yeah.
because I turned to him for that, right? He's scaled, Whiplash, which got acquired by Port Logistics, which got acquired by Ryder. And even if it didn't have that successful exit, I still am such a huge believer in James, just because of his idiosyncrasies, relative to my flipping a cap on its back when I see it on the table kind of thing. Like he has his own that I respect, that are the mark, not just of like a great founder, but of a smart businessman and somebody who wants to see things work properly and actually follows through with it. Like he's known, like there's no nonsense or bullshit on that side of the table with James. So that's kind of how we stumbled upon it. Like I was lucky enough to just be on the radar of companies I was already partnering with. Like we've made a Shopify has this thing called Shopify Compass, which is the equivalent of like a masterclass course. And we did one on packaging and shipping your products sustainably. So we've always had a close relationship with Shopify. We're the only packaging app on Shopify. Most of our customers live on Shopify before we went into the 3PL space. But it was really like James and then also Nick Daniel Richards, the founder, CTO of Ship Hero, who he's actually going to be moving to a different company now. He's no longer there, but he's been incredibly instrumental to scaling the API as well, like hand in hand with James. Super lucky that I have these like two, I look at them as like celebrities in this space. Granted, one being a celebrity in warehouse management systems and 3PLs, not necessarily the sexiest, but dude, it matters and it has impact in this world, which affects fucking everything. Yeah. So for them to be a part of it has been absolutely massive, and I've never felt so unstoppable. And I'd probably attribute a lot of that positive statement I had about going into 2023 and beyond because these two guys are at my side as they work independently on their own other shit too. Like they're just, they advise and they review code and they lead my team. So super lucky on that front.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really interesting kind of how you've had that guidance, and I think it makes sense. And it's interesting how the initial mission or start out was to do this custom sustainable packaging, right, for e-commerce brands essentially, and then you discovered this hole in the 3PL market, warehousing market, which like you said, I mean, as coming from the operations world, I've walked the floor with a clipboard before and counted boxes, and it's not fun, and it's not something that it's time consuming. No. It's not really value added in a sense. So being able to create that efficiency, I think, is a huge thing, and being able to provide the service of this custom packaging, but then also just packaging in general, like in a just in time scenario. I mean, I think is a huge thing, because there's certainly been plenty of times where I've experienced that, someone didn't check that we had enough of one size box left, and then especially during the pandemic, like we had situations where we ran out of this box, and then the supplier, the lead time was 6 to 8 weeks or something to get that box, and that kind of puts you in a position where you can't ship orders effectively or sustainably in a sense. You end up shipping them in larger cartons with a lot of void space, something like that. So having this automation, I think, is a huge improvement to what the traditional process would be. But I'm curious. Go ahead.
Can I ask real quick before you ask that question? Let's just highlight something.
Sure.
When were you walking around like counting?
When was I?
Like how many years ago was that? Yeah. Like you don't have to tell me what company or any of that shit. Just like how long ago?
This was like in the last 2 years, actually. Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, nothing's changed since then.
Yeah.
First of all. Second, you're definitely not the first person to do it.
Right.
Which just goes to show you how far back this actually goes. I actually have investors on the cap table who, are not twice my age, but 50% on top of my age. And they were doing the same shit when they were just out of college.
Oh yeah.
Which just goes to show you that this process predates the fax machine. I'm saying it for the first time right now. You heard it here first, folks.
Exclusive.
That's such a true statement. This process predates the fax machine.
Oh yeah.
It needs to stop. Yeah. It is from a process standpoint, it's older than that. What was your question? I just had to point that out for a second.
No, I mean, I think it's a good thing to point out because it is, I mean, so many things in the warehouse. I mean, there's a lot of disruption going on now, but so many things in the warehouse are like antiquated, right? I mean, it's like we've been doing it this way for so long, blah, blah, blah. And, the old school is now getting disrupted. And I think it's a great thing because there's so much room for improvement in those things like the Arka solution, certainly. So what I was going to ask, I mean, you guys are able to provide this, replenishment when it's needed and, track it through the system and all these different things. But I'm curious, how have you gone about building out this package supplier network, to be able to support companies like across the country?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Totally. So I've been in this industry for like a decade and a half. Mm-hmm. I've made these relationships at other companies where I did run into packaging issues. I've come from the customer's perspective, right? Okay. And we'll actually get the paper in advance when we produce at these factories, right? Mm-hmm. So like Arka is FSC certified, which means that our paper comes from FSC certified mills, which we can then put through facilities that'll manufacture on our behalf. So see it as like we own the ingredients and we're like leasing the kitchen.
Okay.
So finding these kitchens are something that I've just like known for such a long time because I've been, quote, in the restaurant business for almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
If that answers the question. I've worked on so many projects. Like there's a finite amount of packaging materials. There's an infinite amount of packaging styles. Mm-hmm. But in terms of like the actual like material itself, like I've worked with everything from like PCR, compostable, partial PCR, FSC certified paper, folding carton, corrugate. We try to stay away from plastic and can actually substitute plastic and plastic trays with corrugated trays that are customizable. But like biodegradable craft honeycomb mailers, like it's I just named off like pretty much every type of packaging you could ship in, or put like a product in as a primary product. And there's only so many players out there that do it well, that have been vetted, that use our workflow process, so our technology to actually manufacture. So it's our ticketing system and our ingredients and just our kitchen.
Interesting. So he's a pretty good chef, I would say.
Thank you.
So, it's interesting. I mean, you're able to build this network out to support all these different, as we talked about, 3PLs and e-commerce companies, fulfillment situations. So, I mean, it's really interesting. And, the automation in it is obviously the key. So talk us through a little bit, because I'm sure we have some people listening at this point that are, saying like, I just walked around with a clipboard like last week, right, and counted cardboard. So, tell us, walk us through a little bit the workflow, as you mentioned. Like, how does this work? How does it integrate with our like WMS, and then how does it work automatically so that we never really run out of the packaging that we need?
For sure. So the secret sauce itself is, of course, our IP, which I will not dive too deeply into.
Sure.
However, similar to how you can like sign up with any bank with Plaid, with like Stripe, when you want, for example, if you use Stripe as a payment processor, when you want the amount of cash that you actually service through selling as a merchant, you have to connect your bank. You connect your bank typically using something like a Plaid, which will have like a drop down and search function of pretty much any bank you can think of. Similarly, we have a drop down and search function of any WMS you can think of, because there's so many out there. From like Manhattan to ShipBob to ShipHero to Whiplash. Printful has its own. There's just like a ton out there. Extensive has its own. So for us, it's just a matter of like making it easy, one-click connection to a WMS. That's step one. Step two is you'd pair your packages that you have based on your usage at your warehouse to packages that we would carry. And we'll carry everything. Like it'll be the equivalent of I don't want to advertise them, but if any of you have received a catalog in the mail that says buy these boxes or buy this ancillary product to boxes.
Hundreds of those catalogs.
Heavy catalogs. So, I mean, again, hinting at the antiquity behind things. Process that predates a fax machine and a competitor that still sends catalogs. And that's not us just like tooting our horn. I'm just telling you, hey, anyone else listening, you want to compete with us? Go build this shit because it's old. Like it's way past the point of making sense at a warehouse. Folks are going to be losing money. Merchants are going to churn from the warehouse. Please, competitors, welcome. Calling all competitors, come out and build shit. Let's go. Let's rumble in the ring. I'm not saying don't take it on. The space is big enough too. $500 billion. There's so many warehouse management systems in there. There's so many 3PLs out there. We're literally the only ones building this like API tech integration. So please, all are welcome. So connect to the WMS, pair your packages, and then packages are typically tied to a SKU by way of automation rule, and we'll make sure that happens. When your SKU goes out the door, we'll be able to just detriment from that initial pile. And we are not picky, and we are very flexible with how we will get that data. And this is where things get interesting. So if you have a camera at your packing station, for example, by using a company like, let's say, Raybot. So one of the founders, Chana, rather, he was at Manifest. Great guy. Actually, probably one of my favorite founder friends, like in my top 3. Chana, I hope you're listening. And the only reason that there's the other 2 is because I just know them longer. And, we just become closer over the years. But Chana, I love you. I love you a lot.
He does listen. I can confirm.
Nice. He does listen? Okay, cool.
He told me that at Manifest, so yeah.
Oh, that's great. See, he's such a nice guy. He's like actually one of those people who believes in good karma, which is so nice and so refreshing to hear. Some people just don't. I mean, we'll have an entirely different pod around like how we trust certain people that we work with and whatnot. But implicitly, Chana, you've got my trust, and anyone else thinking about working with him, do it, because you'd be doing yourself a disfavor not to. So his company, Raybot, they have cameras set up at the packing stations, and they'll be able to really decipher like the efficiency of how things are being kitted, but they'll also be able to decipher which package you pulled. So if, let's say, someone on the warehouse floor picked a 10 by 8 by 6 RSC box, but it was actually like a 9 by 7 by 4 or whatever, like his cameras will pick up on that and be like, they'll kind of like tattle. And they're not tattling in the sense like, okay, that warehouse worker is not going to get fired. That's not the point here. The point is just to say like, what is this act like? Is this data true? It's there to tell the truth, right? That is ultimately how I describe his product. It's there to tell the truth. And our product is meant to find the truth. Like his product builds truth. Our product finds it. And so what we'll do is we'll use that data. We'll leverage AI and machine learning algorithms to be able to decipher what your consumption rate is for that package, track trends, and then ultimately forecast. So this is super important for the warehouse, because they'll want to be able to put out a PO for the correct amount of packaging, right? And sometimes it's a freaking guessing game. And based on that guessing game, they can actually calibrate the percentage at which they think, we're accurate at. If we're saying, based on your consumption rate, you're going to get another 800 boxes or another 6 pallets of whatever this is, whatever the size this package is, whether it's a poly mailer or a box, doesn't matter. Packing material, doesn't matter. Just if it goes at a warehouse, like for example, working with a company that does bulk boxes, those are something that they would need to auto-replenish as well. We'll be able to do that. From there, the WMS automatically updates with a ship notice, WRO, ASN, whatever you use internally, so that oh shit, we have 3 more pallets of this product coming. Warehouse receiving can prepare itself in recognition that there's something on its way, because they are running low. Instead of what typically happens, which could be a fire drill that has rippling effects throughout the rest of the entire supply chain of not having a product package, right? They could pick the wrong box, which happens all the time. And they might need to, because they run out of package, they'll pick a box that's 1 size bigger than the product, 2 sizes bigger than the product. Anyone listening to this right now, like, you've received a product in the mail that's been in a package that is too big for that product, period. Like if you're listening and that's never happened to you, you've probably never bought anything online, because that shit happens all the time. This is one of those reasons. One of those reasons is because they run out and they're like, well, what do we have to ship this in? Because we're not going to ship this, right? Okay, this is available. We're going to have to just get rid of this package. Another thing is they'll just keep around the same purchase order of packages because they're just fucking used to it, which is crazy. Like they don't do an audit frequently enough, maybe every 6 months. This is what 3PLs claim. And this is like the ones that are more disciplined. They'll say they'll do a package audit every 6 months, which is fine. I'm not saying you need to like completely change out your packaging more frequently than that, but depending on what your product mix is, bullshit that you don't need to do it more frequently than that.
Yeah.
Because what if you had a company churn and it had a very specific package that you had for that SKU, and that SKU is no longer there? So why are you still ordering that packaging?
Yeah.
So that you could put something else inside of it that's going to be too big for it. That doesn't make sense. You're going to be paying more per box. You're going to be paying more per label to ship that out the door because it's a better product.
Yeah.
Bigger package rather.
Yeah,
you're going to be
space.
taking up less room in the back of your truck when you're freighting this out the door. Look, none of this really sounds like a big deal on a one-to-one basis. You're like, okay, this should happen sometime. I'm literally talking about every physical product that goes out the door from a warehouse. Like if you're talking about all of them, this definitely adds up.
Potentially thousands in a day. I mean,
thousands in a day per one location.
Yeah.
That's not even like everyone, because I'm talking about everyone. Like this is not agnostic. This is agnostic to the 3PL that you're at. Unless you're shipping product that's heavier than 100 pounds, then it doesn't apply to you. But if you are kidding and shipping parcel, listen up. Like this is something that you should probably be using.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you make, huge points there because it's such a, ripple effect, and by not having like the right size packaging for what you're actually shipping. It's one thing to, like you said, run out of the right size package and then use something else, try and scramble to figure out an alternative. And, sometimes you may run into an issue where, maybe that item that you have to ship was in like the biggest box that you have in stock, and then you just ran out of that box, and then you're like really screwed because you can't fit it in a smaller box, right? So something like that. But even down the line, I mean, you look at, like you said, you end up with more void space in the box, so you take up more cube in the truck, which costs you more, and then it's not as sustainable as you want to be. It's bad for the environment. And then I see, the things you're talking about where customers receive packages and there's lots like a toothbrush and like 11 by 8 by 10 box or something like that is like tons of void space, and people go online and post that stuff. I mean, I think there's like a Reddit all about that. I know I see James Malley from Packard post that stuff all the time on LinkedIn, and it's really interesting because it's such a big impact that like in that moment, in like that split decision of we just need to get this out the door, you're not really thinking of that, and you shouldn't have to be, right? If you put a system like Arka in place that automates all of that, then you shouldn't run into that issue. But like you said, it's been such a manual process that it's easy to have something go wrong within that process, which I think that you guys are really pushing towards helping and eliminating those mistakes and defects in the process in the supply chain, which I think is a huge thing.
Thanks, man. That's the aim. And appreciate you always being a proponent. I know you've posted some great shit on LinkedIn, like simplifying what we do from a Kanban standpoint. And that was completely unsolicited, which I double respect.
So I mean, I think Philip, it's great to be getting to know you over the past 2 months, something like that, whatever it's been, and getting to meet you in person as well. And now have you on the podcast. I mean, Arka, I think at first, first glance is like custom packaging, like that's cool. But now seeing like the whole kind of ecosystem that you've built around packaging, I think is a huge thing for the industry. It's certainly going to be reducing a lot of time for people who those people carrying the clipboards. I can put the clipboard down, which I think is a great thing.
Put it down.
So, I really appreciate you coming on the show. If people are interested in learning more about Arka, how can they do that?
Yeah, they can go to arka.com. We got ourselves a 4-letter domain. Very lucky. And if they want to chat or shoot the shit, nerd out about supply chain or anything else, I'm philip@arka.com. That's with 2 L's. Don't dince me on that extra L. It's PHILLIP@arka.com.
Definitely. And yeah, if you want to nerd out with Philip, he can definitely nerd out. I can attest to that. So we'll definitely put all the information on thenewwarehouse.com so people can easily find it. So Philip, thank you once again for your time on the show today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.